Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
We're getting down to just a small handful of doctors it could possibly be, so
yeah.
I'm very much intrigued.
So I'm going to take us a little bit forward in the Doctor's timeline. In fact, almost up to date. We're going to be checking in with the 13th Doctor.
Ah.
So, I want to just check in with Graham and Ryan and Yaz as they experience Molten Heart by Una McCormack.
Ooh, exciting.
Yes. Because we've read one Una.
Yeah.
And that was rather good, I thought, from memory. We're going to spend some time with Una McCormack, who is great fun on Twitter. Do follow her, she is very funny. That's what we're going to be reading, Molten Heart.
Excellent. I'm excited. I definitely want more with this TARDIS team, and
yes.
It was kind of sad to see them broken up.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. Happy March, Chris. How are things going with you?
Yeah, it's sunny. It's almost feeling like spring is starting. There are daffodils that I have seen whilst I've been wandering around trying to avoid people. Yes.
That sounds lovely. We're in the middle of another snowstorm. It seems like every time we record, it's snowing, but we're at least finally out of our multi-week below zero deep freeze, and that's below -17 for the rest of the world, using Celsius.
Yeah.
But it's been mid-40s the past few weeks, so like around 7 degrees or so, which feels a lot warmer. But yeah, this morning it just so happens to be snowing again.
Yeah.
But I saw someone post, it was just like a meme or something, and a Doctor Who episode title card, and it was done in that 4th or 5th Doctor font, and it said, AstraZeneca by Christopher H. Bidmead.
Yeah.
Kind of sounds like an episode he might write.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. We did have some book news to share. Mm-hmm. So we did have a lot going on last month, and the announcements just keep coming in. Mm-hmm. We have 3 new titles to talk about that have been announced. The first is called The Ruby's Curse by Alex Kingston. So this is another in the line of actors, quote-unquote, writing their own Doctor Who books that John Barrowman and Tom Baker and Sophie Aldred have taken part in. So yeah, that'll be exciting, kind of from River's perspective.
Well, John Barrowman kept it in the family, isn't it? Because his sister co-wrote his. So
That's true, yeah.
Yes. So obviously we're not involved in the writing process. We don't know how much say the famous authors have had. But I think if you're writing a book with your sister, it might be a different experience than writing it with a ghost author. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm scared we're going to get sued. Shall we move on?
I'd love to see a Freema Agyeman one someday.
Yes.
We've already had her adventures during her missing year on Earth, which we reviewed, I think, way back in, episode 12. But I'd love for a novel set during the months she was stranded, say, in London during the 60s in Blink. See some of the invasions and stories set in the 60s from her point of view, almost in a Who Killed Kennedy kind of way. Something like that I think would be really cool.
Yeah, sounds good.
Also announced Legends of Camelot by Jacqueline Rayner, and this is due out on June 10th. Mm-hmm. And this is a 10th Doctor anthology where the 10th Doctor meets Arthurian tales in like a mashup. So Knights of the Round Table, duels, quests, all with like a Time Lord twist, which makes me wonder, does this mean the 10th Doctor was Merlin after all?
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking instantly of Battlefield. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds interesting. Yeah.
It seems like a good pairing of author and doctor in historical setting, just given how successful The Stone Rose was, too.
Yes. Well, historical. So,
Loose.
yes.
Well,
yeah.
If Robin of Sherwood is historical, then...
Well, is it set during Arthurian times, or is it retelling some of them in Time Lordy ways in other, like on alien planets or the like, or do we not know?
We don't know, but I just assume that it was kind of set on Earth and like retelling of Arthurian tales. But yeah, you're right. It could be more loosely inspired. Not sure.
Interesting.
And then finally, friends of the show, Bill Evenson of the Frankenstein Minute podcast and Stacey Smith of Bookworm and Who is the Doctor fame have announced an unofficial humorous Doctor Who comedy book with an afterword by Fraser Hines called Look at the Size of That Thing. Which is being put out by Pencil Tip Publishing, a small Canadian publishing company out of Vancouver. Looking at the description here, it says, Look at the Size of That Thing contains everything you need to know to fool everyone into believing you're a true Doctor Who fan. Sure, you could always watch every episode in reconstruction, read every novel and comic book, listen to every audio, play every game, memorize every Andrew Pixley archive, but who has time for that? It kind of makes me wonder if Bill's secretly been doing field research all this time, sitting at tavern, observing us fans, and maybe that's why he was constantly scribbling away on a notepad.
Possibly. Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm not sure when that one's due out, but it has been announced, so I'd imagine in the next few months or so.
It reminds me very much of the Bluffers Guides. I don't think there ever was like a Bluffers Guide to Doctor Who. And I don't know if the Bluffers Guide was a primarily British thing, but like in the 90s you had Bluffers Guide to various different subjects, and it was slightly humorous but also slightly factual. It was the kind of gift that teachers gave each other at my school.
It reminds me a little bit of the, was it the Steve Lyons Completely Useless Encyclopedia?
Yes.
The Doctor Who A to Z listings and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I loved that book. But I think I've said before, I am nervous of reopening it in case it doesn't live up to memory. Yes. Yeah. So, right.
That's some exciting books coming up.
Cool. So I think this gets us to kind of show and tell time.
It does, yes.
It does. So what do you have for show and tell?
So this month, I was going to talk about Doctor Who Magazine and finally getting a digital subscription, but that's not actually going to be my show and tell. I did purchase DWM 561 just to get that Target promotional book that came with it, which has excerpts. But no, my show and tell is sitting on my desk right here. It is a Doctor Who Build-A-Bear.
Oh, wow.
The 13th Doctor one.
Okay.
I decided to finally buy one of these. It's really cool. It's very cute. She's wearing her hood and she's got little ear holes for teddy bear ears, and just very impressed by the design. And she has 2 embroidered hearts. The little sonic screwdriver it comes with even makes a little noise there.
Cool.
So, yeah, it's kind of ties into the book we're reading for this month too, so I figured.
Yes, because that features teddy bears. It's because it's the 13th Doctor.
Planet of the Teddy Bears.
Yes, Planet of the Teddy Bears. Yeah, that does feel like a season 11 story that's got scrapped.
Feels like a Paul Mars story too.
Oh, it does, doesn't it? Yeah. I've kind of only ever been in a Build-A-Bear store, I think, once, and that was like many, many, many moons ago. And I remember that the bears got built there. So do you have to go into a store, scary thought, to kind of go and get it built, or has it already come to you pre-assembled?
It comes pre-assembled, fortunately, and for whatever reason, the Doctor Who line is an online exclusive, so even if you went into the shop, I don't think you'd be able to purchase them, at least not in the United States. It might be different in the UK, but yeah, I've never actually gone into a Build-A-Bear workshop before, but yeah, they're undeniably very cute. This isn't my first Build-A-Bear. I also got all 4 Ninja Turtles back in the day when they had that license. But they also have 10th Doctor and 11th Doctor versions available too. But I went for the current model.
Right. Oh, okay, that's interesting. I might have a look at prices for the 11th Doctor one. I do know somebody who does like cute 11th Doctor merchandise.
So... He comes with a fez. The 11th Doctor does.
Okay.
Have a Google. They do look very cute.
All right, this might be a sale. Yeah. And also, we don't have to venture into a store, which is nice, because at the moment, we're not allowed to.
Yeah, and even if you were allowed to, it's probably not a good idea at the moment either.
Yeah.
So, Chris, what do you have for a show and tell this month?
So in February, I had the absolute pleasure of being on a online video chat type thing with Russell T Davies.
Oh, wow.
So, or at least being in the online audience for one. I was not speaking with him. So he rocked up at Damien Barr's Literary Salon, which is a nowadays online event in which kind of writers come up and discuss their wares, and it's usually fabulous, and this time was absolutely no exception. So amongst other guests, they had RTD talking about It's a Sin, and you can watch the talk. I think it's like £5 or so, £5 in British speak, though I will warn you, it does get incredibly spoilery. Even though Damien Blessum did try to kind of say, oh, here at the salon, we don't do spoilers, but RTD does spoilers. Yeah, he speaks about the writing process for it, and at one point they were only going to be having 4 episodes, and also he wrote a treatment of it for 8 episodes. And he outlined what the original last episode was going to be like.
And it ended up being 5, right?
Yeah, it ended up being 5, yeah. We haven't watched the last episode yet, because RTT kind of explained it all for us. So we will at some point, but it was kind of like, whoa, oh, great. Ta.
I have seen the entire series now, and it just, it's fantastic. And
yes,
the character of Richie, I think, is inspired in part by Dursley McLinden, who played Mike in Remembrance of the Daleks.
Yes.
So there's that Doctor Who connection there, and
yeah,
it's with Russell T Davies in his writing. It's, he says the T stands for television. Sometimes I feel like the T stands for tragedy, especially his last few outings. But it's cool too how he's still time traveling even without the TARDIS. Taking us to the future in years and years, and then back into the past with It's a Sin. It's just really cool.
Yeah, yes, years and years, taking us to a dystopian future before our present became dystopian, or even more dystopian than it was.
And It's a Sin was filmed, I think, pre-pandemic, but it
was yeah,
interesting how prescient it is, and just some of those early scenes with HIV and misinformation going around about the virus, and just all those parallels, and having to explain to someone that the PPE equipment is to protect them from you, not necessarily the other way around. It's just little scenes like that. Now that we've been living through that for a year, plus now, it's just fascinating to see that play out too.
It's definitely, it's not a light watch, but also at times there's just some absolutely hilarious scenes as well. I think it's a powerful watch. It's definitely one worth watching. And RTD was saying that in December, when they were starting to get all the pre-publicity ready, he and Channel 4 were very nervous that it's going to be a flop, because he figured who on earth is going to want to watch a drama about a pandemic during a pandemic? But I just think it just adds extra resonance.
Yeah.
And such amazing acting as well. I mean, some of the cast, some of the younger members of the cast, I've seen before in other things. Jill, I forgot the name of the actor, Lizzie. Anyway, she's in Years and Years, and she's just a heart and soul of It's a Sin. And Ollie, I know from Years and Years, the band, because the guy who plays Richie, he's far better known in the UK as being a singer.
Huh. Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I know he has a couple of moments where he's doing some singing in a karaoke bar or something. And
singing terribly, but he can actually
sing well. Oh.
We've seen him and his band, who are called Years and Years. So I think it's quite nice that RTD, for his follow-up to Years and Years, got the guy from Years and Years as his lead.
Funny.
Yeah, and also as well, RTD is kind of tipping him as a potential next Doctor. I think he would be brilliant.
Yeah, if they want to go that younger Matt Smith, David Tennant kind of route. Certainly. Yeah, I think. Yeah,
I think he'd be a fantastic choice.
Very cool.
And also Jill, if I could actually remember the name of the of the performer, she would be fantastic as well.
Yeah, she'd be a great Doctor.
Yeah. So right, okay. So shall we move on to
Molten Heart.
Molten Heart, yes, indeed.
So yeah, this is by Una McCormack, and this is our second book that we've reviewed by her. Most recently for Doctor Who, she's written All Flesh is Grass, which is a Time Lord Victorious tie-in novel featuring the 8th, 9th, and 10th Doctors. And then in addition to writing that, she's done a lot for Star Trek, most recently the autobiography of Captain Janeway and a tie-in novel for Star Trek Picard. And coming out shortly is a book called Wonderlands, which is published in May. And it's the untold story of Michael Burnham's missing year between seasons 2 and 3 of Star Trek Discovery.
AKA how she gets that hair. Yes.
Adventures with Book and his cat, I think, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Have you seen any of Discovery?
Oh, yeah, I'm current on it, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. I know you didn't initially because it was CBS Access, whereas over here it's on Amazon Prime, so it's a bit more generally available.
Yeah, I would say I was originally a little more supportive of the Orville than I was Star Trek Discovery, but Discovery really came into its own throughout Season 2 and then into Season 3, I feel like.
Yeah, Season 3 is fantastic.
Yeah.
I found Season 2, little bits of it a struggle. I think you can go in to Season 3 not having really seen any of it.
Agreed, yeah. Have you watched any of the short treks that have come out?
No, those unless those are available on YouTube, they're not being put up over here, at least not that I can see.
Some of those have been really interesting too because they foreshadowed the whole Discovery leap in time by about a year and a half, and there's still elements that they've revealed in one of those short treks that haven't come to light in the series yet that kind of bear on it. So it's really interesting to see. And some of those short treks are just hilarious. There's one with the voice actor who is it H. John Benjamin, who is on Bob's Burgers, but he plays a hapless lieutenant who's going around trying to clean up tribbles.
Brilliant.
There's some fun ones. But getting back to
Una McCormack, yes.
This was the second of 3 books released at the start of the 13th Doctor era. There was The Good Doctor, which was published first, which we reviewed back in episode 30. Then this one, then Combat Magics by Steve Cole being the third. And they were all published in October and November of 2018. And there's been a few odd books here and there since then, but unfortunately to date, this has been the last in the series of those 3 at a time new series adventures going all the way back to 2005, which kind of unfortunate. I mean, it was a very long running series, and it'd be great if they did another 3 as part of it. I know their various publishers are focused on new Target books and other things, but I do miss the new series adventures.
Yeah, I wonder whether, because like Time Lord Victorious probably took a lot of organising, and so that may well have taken away some of the 13th Doctor books that might have otherwise happened. But I suspect that we'll probably have some accompanying the next season, whenever that is, just to help introduce John Bishop's character.
Yeah.
Dan, I think his name is. But...
And the book itself is a little on the shorter side. There's only 193 pages, and that's with blank pages in between each chapter too. And the audiobook comes in around just under 5 hours. And there are 11 untitled chapters, and the cover depicts the Doctor and Ryan. Each of the 3 books that were released had a different companion on the cover. I'd say there isn't really any one member of the TARDIS team where it's quote-unquote their story, and the narratives kind of, for all 3 of those books, is pretty well balanced between all 4 of the characters. Maybe this one, I'd say, leaning slightly more towards Yaz.
Yeah, I was going to say that, yeah. I mean, it's not Yaz heavy, but yeah.
But yeah, it's not like, oh, Ryan's on the cover, so this is like a Ryan book. It's not, not like that.
Yeah.
In terms of when it's set, it seems to be not long after the Ghost Monument, because Yaz is still exploring various rooms in the TARDIS, and the Doctor mentions at one point that she's still getting used to her new face, too.
But also, I think it's set after Combat Magic.
Oh, really?
Because there is a reference to kind of Roman times.
Huh.
And Graham sort of says, oh, it's like how it was in Gaul, which I think is where Combat Magic is set.
Interesting, because, this one was published 3 to 4 weeks before that one, so...
Yeah.
Not the first time that's happened.
No.
Timing.
No, I mean, it doesn't affect your enjoyment or anything at all, so, yeah.
Well, it might affect mine. No,
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't. So, shall we begin?
Yeah. Let's get started.
So, Molten Heart starts with opening up on this planet called Admantium, not to be confused with adamantium. It seems like an unremarkable world. Its surface dominated by moorlands and oceans, and it's the kind of place that often gets invaded until the invaders get bored and move on. And the TARDIS is orbiting adamantium, and the Doctor's zooming in on the scanner to reveal beautiful beaches and the stunning moorlands, and the fam decides that they're going to take the TARDIS down and land. And the TARDIS materializes in a cleft between two different cliffs, and the ground has occasional kind of sparkling mineral material on it. And the sky seems very strange. It seems to be like at night, and there's this kind of ambience and what appears to be stars, but might be minerals shining everywhere. And then the TARDIS crew starts to explore when the Doctor reveals that they're inside of the planet, kind of in this like hollow bubble under the surface. And as they climb a ridge, they see in the distance a shining city, a city seemingly made of diamonds. And Yaz notices that there's this like eerie stillness in the air, as if a storm is coming. And then suddenly the floor starts collapsing into hot liquid. So quite a start.
Yeah, it's an attention-grabbing start. Yes. So one thing that I started wondering from this is, how is gravity working?
Yeah, I mean, with the thing is with like enclosed like underground civilizations, I feel like you can't ever scrutinize that too closely, or it all just kind of falls apart. It's one of those things where, and it gets into this a little bit later, but it's like you can kind of go the fairy tale route of that sort of story, or you can go like the hard science route, and I think this book takes the former path.
Yes, it does. Yeah, so elsewhere inside the planet, we meet Ash, who's a young woman dreaming of visiting the settlements that she sees twinkling away on the other side of the hollow world. And she used to discuss this with her father, who had this theory there was life outside their sphere, beyond the kind of like the hollow world. And this is based on the fact that there seems to be light streaming through the holes in the sphere sometimes, and it seems to be kind of cyclical. We would recognise it as being kind of like day and night, and so it entirely depends upon which side of the planet it's in the daytime. Why am I explaining how day and night works? Anyway, yes.
You know, if you're on a
Anyway, right. So about 6 months ago, Ash's dad left on an expedition because he's been concerned about changes, like in the surface of kind of like hollow world. Nothing's been heard of him since, and so Ash is outside this kind of diamond city having a walk when she sees a blue box in the distance, and overhears these strangers talking, and catches the Doctor's theory that they're on the inside of a planet. And so she's thrilled that her dad was right, but the thrill is short-lived when she sees the ground erupt around the TARDIS crew.
And yeah, so the ground is kind of erupting into like almost like lava, or I suppose would be lava. And Graham scrambles to safety as he almost falls into this boiling river, and which has now stranded the fam. You know, the TARDIS is on the other side of this river of lava, unfortunately, so they can't get to it. Yeah. And this early exploration scene, it reminded me a little bit of the opening of the Web Planet, where you just, you have the group of four looking at how alien everything is, and was it Ian or Barbara almost fell into an acid pit, kind of how Graham almost gets incinerated by the lava. But anyway, they see two figures running towards them, and as they get closer, the fam can see these figures seem to have a rocky-like skin. One of them is Ruby and the other one is Sapphire. And we learn that these are their names too. So like Ash is kind of ashy, Ruby has rubies, and Sapphire has sapphires. So that's all very convenient too. And I couldn't tell if this was like a tribute to partially Sapphire and Steel, or maybe even Steven Universe, in terms of the character names here.
Well, or it could be 80s cartoons. It does have a slight Visionaires kind of vibe to it, or
Amethyst, Princess of Gemworld, sort of.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even more so. Yeah, and also who are the boulders in He-Man?
Oh yeah, the Rock Lords.
Yes, yes. Hello, we've run out of ideas. I think the kids like Transformers now. It could be that it's a TARDIS translation circuit things, kind of converting these names.
Yeah, just very literally.
Yes, but it does make you kind of wonder as well, like, surely there would be more than one person who's Sapphire-like. So, because like, when I was explaining this to Lauren, because like sometimes if I'm reading through, I kind of talk through, we've got to this stage in the book. And she said, is it kind of like Icelandic? Would you have some kind of like Sapphire son? And I was like, maybe, but the book isn't telling us this.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, it's kind of very much in broad strokes here.
Yes.
So you have Sapphire and Ruby running up, and they accuse the TARDIS team of having created the river, and so the fam decide, time to run. And Ash has been watching all this unfold at a distance, and Sapphire and Ruby are part of what's called the dreaded Green Watch, so like almost like a police force, and they quickly capture the TARDIS crew. And Ash is excited, though, that there are off-worlders around and that aliens exist. And she knows exactly where the Green Watch will be taking the new arrivals. So she heads off as night falls within the bubble. And then Sapphire and Ruby force the fam into a hole in the ground, and then they seal it with a rock. And this appears to be a dungeon of some kind. There's lots of rooms being covered by different types of rocks. It seems to be a common door is to move rocks across different openings.
It's kind of got a Colin Baker feel as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like...
Well, I'm picturing these like giant, almost like circular doors, almost like Deep Space Nine sort of, but they're but they're all made of rock. But
possibly, yeah.
And the Doctor's frustrated that none of them have brought any rope because they find themselves locked up, and her and Graham prepare to nod off and fall asleep when Yaz realizes that there's someone looking down at them, and it's Ash, and she's brought some rope with her, which is very useful to get them out of the dungeon.
Yeah, so Ash helps the fam out of the literal hole in which they found themselves. So in our first proper glimpse of her, we see that she's obsidian with flecks of... Is it mica? Mica? I'm not a rock expert. And Yaz thinks that the rope is a lot stickier than she's used to, so she's wondering what it's made of. Which I was glad that she was wondering that, because I was wondering how come they had rope.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was like spider webbing or something like that. And it's hard to tell, too, whether these rock creatures are they entirely silicon-based life forms like the Horta in Star Trek? Or are they, similar to like the aliens that we saw, was it in Fires of Pompeii? Those kind of rock creatures, but...
it's not really explained.
Their physiology is, never. Yeah. We don't really get answers there, but...
No. So Ash promises to take them to a safe place. Along the way, she explains that the world has been changing and that there's been various pools emptying. And the Doctor reckons that the liquid that's bursting through the ground is in fact seawater from the planet's surface. And Graham, in the distance, notices what he thinks might be shooting stars. But the Doctor says that they're cracks on the ground, catching the light from the sun. Ash says that there's been more of these shooting star type things as time passes. Yeah, there's some beautiful bits of imagery that's being created here. And I would love to see this as a kind of like an animation, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's possibly beyond the BBC budget for live action.
Yeah, this does feel like it would lend itself more to like an animation or even like an audio sort of adventure. But yeah, there's some vivid imagery here. So Ash tells them that they're walking near an old seabed, and the Doctor realizes that this inner world used to have like a sea of lava. And after a little while, Ash takes them into a cave illuminated by crystals whose colors gently shift up and down the spectrum. And this cave used to be her dad's old laboratory. And inside it, they encounter what's called a ruby rat, which is about 6 inches long and has teeth that can cut gemstones. And after that ruby rat scuttles off, a figure crashes into the lab. He's a purple-colored creature with sharp edges around his eyebrows.
Well, I think it's a little bit like Doomsday in Superman. But or at least how Doomsday has been sometimes portrayed. But yeah,
how his eyebrows have been depicted. Yeah. And this guy's name is Quartz, and he's a bit suspicious of the TARDIS team, who he reckons look like mushrooms. And it turns out that Quartz is a former patron of Ash's dad, the scientist, whose name is Basalt.
Because of course it is, yes.
And Quartz advises them all against going to the Diamond City, which is kind of the main city within this hollow world, as more pools are forming in the Great Curve, which is where most of the rock creatures live. Kind of like the suburbs in terms of the layout of the interior.
Yeah.
And the Doctor asks more questions about the seawater, and Ash decides to show them a hollow cube. And they watch as some of Ash's people are scalded by seawater with their skin peeling off.
It's a lovely image to just have.
This reminded me, there's is it a Ray Bradbury short story about a family made of sugar, and they can't get exposed to water or they'll melt, so they can't go out in the rain.
Oh, that's ringing very distant bells. Oh, okay.
I think it's a Ray Bradbury short story. But that's what came to mind there. And then Quartz reveals that Emerald, the ruler of the city, has the TARDIS now. And the Doctor notes that Quartz seems to be very well informed about what's going on in the city. He happens to know where Basalt was headed, this area of the underground called the White Way, which is a series of lava rapids.
So with the Diamond City, I did kind of wonder whether they were originally going to be calling it Emerald City, but maybe they kind of felt a bit nervous that they kind of whoever owns the rights to the Wizard of Oz now might kind of get in touch.
The short story I was thinking of is called Rain, Rain, Go Away, and it's by Isaac Asimov. It's not by Bradbury.
Okay. But it sounds like the sort of thing that Ray Bradbury would do. Because I remember,
it does.
What was the ice cream thing that he did? But anyway, it does sound like the kind of slightly quirky thing that he would do. Anyway, yeah, so not long after a new night cycle begins, the fam head off, accompanied by Ash and Quartz. And they've also got Basalt's notes with them, kind of stored in crystal form, which is useful.
It's hard telling, too, like what level of technology these rock creatures are at, because in some ways it's very making netting or rope, and then they also have all these crystalline cube storage facility, like almost like computer type stuff. So it's kind of this weird amalgamation of ancient and new.
Yeah. There's a slight Krypton vibe going on as well, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. Especially with all the crystal.
Yes, yeah.
And the science denial.
Yeah, that's true, actually, isn't it? Yeah. So a lake of boiling seawater erupts, which separates Yaz, Graham and Quartz from Ash, the Doctor and Ryan. And Yaz's team decide to head to the city to find the TARDIS. But across the lake, the Doctor signals to Yaz not to trust Quartz. By the time the next day cycle is starting, the Doctor's crew, so her, Ash and Ryan, have reached the head of the lava rapids, where they find a coracle made of stone. And it's around about here that we have the reading for this month, isn't it?
It is, yeah. This month's dramatic reading is a brief excerpt from the BBC audiobook of Molten Heart, performed by Dan Starkey, whom you may know as Strax from the Paternoster Gang. I had the pleasure of meeting Dan at Console Room in Minneapolis a few years back, and just a wonderful guy in person, and he's definitely a fan of the show, one of us, as it were. You can find the audiobook available for purchase on Apple Music, Amazon, and other services, as well as Audible and good old-fashioned audio CD. They still make those occasionally. So let's have a listen.
And then they were off, caught in the flow of the white-hot lava. "Oh, my days!" shouted Ryan as the whirled whipped past. "Oh, man!" They sped along. Ryan whooped out loud with delight, and the Doctor whooped at least as much, if not more. Then, from the corner of his eye, Ryan saw huge domed shapes rise up from the magma. Ash was doing a good job of dodging between them, but Ryan's oar brushed against one. It came out sticky. He was about to reach out to touch when he heard Ash's voice, shouting out above the roar of the rocks. "Jellyfish!" she cried. "Don't touch them! They give a nasty sting!" Ryan pulled his hand back hastily. Ash kept the boat dodging through the creatures. Then something else rose out of the lava. Ryan had an impression of bulk and teeth and a roaring, scraping sound. "Lava shark!" cried Ash. "What should it do?" yelled Ryan, then remembered something about bopping them on the nose to drive sharks away. He lifted up his oar and whacked it hard. Don't do that, yelled Ash. You'll make it mad. Sure enough, the beast lunged up, and for a moment Ryan thought he was going to lose the oar to its maw. Then the shark pulled back. Ryan breathed a sigh of relief, then realised that the beast was only backing up to come back and hammer the side of their little boat. They rocked about perilously. Ash, Ryan cried. It's still there. Don't worry, Ryan, I'm on it, shouted the doctor. She pushed her oar down beneath the surface and flipped up one of the jellyfish onto its flat surface. Here, she said. Catch this! She lobbed the jellyfish up into the air. Ryan stuck up his oar and with a flick of the wrist sent it flying to land flat on the shark's nose. It roared with rage and slunk away beneath the surface. Gotcha! Ryan yelled.
Thank you very much, Dan, for reading that.
Yeah, thanks, son.
Again, you can get Molten Heart to listen to wherever fine audiobooks are sold.
As well as rubbish ones, but yes. Yeah, go to your audiobook stockist of choice. I'm sure they'll have it. Yeah, so Team Yaz are nearing Diamond City. So Quartz shows them a sneaky way in via a secret door in a cliff face, which reminds Graham of the Mines of Moria from Lord of the Rings. So we get a little bit of Graham and Ryan's backstory here, and that I think Ryan has been inflicting various fantasy and sci-fi films from the last 20 years or so on Graham.
Yeah.
When Grace was alive. And, yeah.
Nice little bit of character development.
Yes, yeah. Team Doctor have found themselves on the other side of the rapids on a path near some dense forests. And Ash stumbles across a stone tablet with her dad's name on it, but everything else on it is encoded.
Yeah, there's these messages that her dad has been leaving on these different tablets.
Yes.
And Ash manages to crack the code and works out that it was her dad's plan to head straight into the forests. And Ryan has figured out that all of the foliage is basically different forms of fungi, which is also what the sticky ropes were made out of.
It's roundabout here, isn't it, that he also gives a little lesson to the audience, saying, don't eat random mushrooms.
Yeah, it does contain that warning just in case.
Yes.
Because, yeah, one thing I did like about this section was that it did address, like, Ryan and the Doctor are hungry and they're foraging for mushrooms, and I just wish the novels generally had more of that kind of little slice of life moments, because you'd think, like, yeah, they've been here for a long time and they'd probably be hungry and thirsty, especially if, you know, they can't drink any water because the water's toxic to all the other creatures there. So it's interesting to see, like, how the Doctor manages to, like, wring liquid out of some of these mushrooms and other types that there are okay to eat. So
yeah, but also, what are the toilet arrangements?
I don't know if I needed to get that detailed.
No, I know, but I'm just thinking that now. I'm just like, okay.
Oh, go behind that rock. Yeah.
Yes, because make sure it's not a living one. Yes.
So Team Doctor head into the forest with the Doctor using her sonic to track the cracks that aren't visible due to the undergrowth. Meanwhile, Team Yaz, they're going through various different underground tunnels until they reach Quartz's cave, which has a huge hall carved out of glowing crystal. And Yaz is increasingly suspicious of Quartz, and this isn't helped when a group of Quartz's friends appear and start almost like examining the human creatures, because they've never seen them before, and treating them more like specimens. So these new arrivals to Quartz's, few of them are kind of close up and they claim that this is heresy. So there's some sort of like religious or doctrinal belief, you know, in play here that knowledge of the outside world is heretical.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Ribos operation and was it
Binro,
yeah. So after these people have wandered off, Yaz and Graham have a nap, because there's a lot of sleeping in this book, and Quartz wakes them up to warn them that he's heard that the Green Watch have learnt of the heresy and they're probably on their way. So the three of them head into the tunnels, running as fast as they can. Graham, bless him, can't run quite as fast as Yaz, and so Yaz slows down to look after him. But she realises that Quartz has left them behind. But they can hear the Green Watch hunting for them, and she sees these kind of like emerald flashes in the darkness. And despite Graham's best efforts to continue, the Watch end up capturing both of them. And so they're brought before Emerald, the ruler of this underground world. And Emerald is apparently quite petite. And Yaz tries to persuade Emerald that they're here to help. but mainly it succeeds in upsetting Emerald. Emerald is intending to downplay the environmental crisis because she doesn't want to cause any panic. Does this remind you of... I mean, clearly, this book is about climate crisis and everything, but you can see echoes of some people's leadership approaches in the pandemic.
Yeah. Anti-science denialism and a lot of that ringing true.
Yeah, and also leaders that know the situation's bad but aren't wanting to cause any panic. So, like some kind of person possibly about a year or so ago, allegedly. So, anyway.
Also, the style of this reminds me quite a bit of Adventure Time. Like, the different, like, Flame Princess of the Flame Kingdom sort of thing. I don't know if you're familiar with that cartoon, but just kind of the fantastical elements and some of the storytelling choices bring that series to mind. But anyway, so Team Doctor back in the forest of mushrooms, they find their route blocked by what seems to be a waterfall that's eerily quiet. And the Doctor discovers that the waterfall is made up of stone shavings, which are glimmering blue in the light. However, suddenly the waterfall starts to collapse, landing on top of Ash. And by the time the Doctor reach her, Ash just emerges and she's fine because apparently getting collapsed on by a bunch of rocks is okay if you're also made of rocks. So it's no different than, like, say, getting hit by a wave of water or something.
That would hurt, though. A wave of water would hurt. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it would knock her over, but it wouldn't kill her or anything.
I mean, if we got hit by, like, a wave of flesh, that would hurt.
Yeah, it would. But
anyway.
Wouldn't necessarily kill you. So by the time Ryan and the Doctor reach her, she's emerged from these stone shavings, and she's got good news that she's found a tunnel amongst the mushroom foliage. And as they explore it, they notice that the tunnel is very smooth, like it was cut by a machine. And they also see chains and switches, none of which are things that Ash recognizes. Ryan pulls on a chain and a cage descends containing another tablet. Basalt has definitely been through this way and seemingly headed up the same tunnel that the tablet descended from. And this part reminded me a little bit of the Goonies, where they're kind of on the trail of Chester Copperpot. Yeah.
It also feels like a point-and-click adventure game as well. Yeah.
This would work as if it was adapted into a point-and-click adventure. It would actually, I think, work fairly well. So then the Doctor and Ash and Ryan get into the lift, which starts heading up quickly, and then it slows dramatically as ruby rats emerge from the roof and begin eating at the cables. And the lift stops and swings precariously until something starts hauling it up. And when they reach the surface, the lift door is pulled open by none other than Basalt, Ash's dad, who they've caught up with and have now found.
Yeah, that I found kind of surprising. I mean, I knew that he was going to rock up at some point in the narrative. But yeah, I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, he showed up earlier than I thought he might.
Yeah. And also I was wondering, when he does appear, it would be a sign as to what kind of book this is. Yeah, whether we're going to kind of skew somewhat darker. But I kind of figured, he's going to be all right. So Yaz and Graham have found themselves in a prison cell, where Yaz is furious with herself for letting him be betrayed by Quartz. And Graham seems to be a bit of an old hand at prison cells at this point.
Yeah, it's early on in their adventures, but this isn't the first time he's been locked up, I guess.
Yes, yeah. I'm thinking, is it? But anyway, so the door is suddenly opened by a Greenwatch guard who says that they're a friend of Basalt. And Yaz and Graham find out that their rescuer is called Onyx. Is that how you pronounce it?
Or Onks, I think.
Onks. Again, not a rock expert. And he was one of Quartz's friends. And he's taken him to Quartz as he wants to talk. Quartz says that he'd given him away to Emerald to throw her off the scent of the Doctor's mission to find Basalt. And Quartz is going to be in contrite now, though, because a settlement had been destroyed overnight by another hot sea pool suddenly forming.
Yeah, and when these pools happen, it's like the outside, the external ocean, the sea waters getting in and just reacting with the heat of the interior of the underground kingdom, which the temperature difference didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because it's not like this is like a superheated environment where, Yaz and the Doctor and Graham can't exist.
Yeah.
Under normal circumstances where you have like seawater meeting lava, you'll have like an explosive steam reaction sort of thing. And that's what they're pointing to here.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yes, science seems to happen to other places, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like I said, it does feel like more like a
fantasy type thing.
Yeah, fairy tale approach.
And I think your willingness to accept it possibly dictates how much you'll enjoy it.
True. Yeah. So Ash and Basalt, her father, embrace, and as Ash is introducing her father to her friends, he says that they aren't the first others that he's seen, but they look different from the other creatures he's encountered. And he wonders if they're from the surface world. And he talks about Quartz, and he says that Quartz is generally a good guy, but because he grew up with both Basalt and Emerald, he continues to remain friends with both. And then he also says that Emerald isn't evil. She's just trying to protect people, but going about it in the wrong way. So a bit of nuance there, because I don't think this book takes the approach that there's necessarily like a bad guy or a villain.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of misunderstandings, which is funny because it's similar to the approach that Una McCormack used in The Way Through the Woods as well, where there really isn't a baddie, so to speak. It's more of like misunderstandings or circumstances leading to the conflict.
Yeah. I won't say any more. I think I'm in danger of showing my hand. Right. I'll let you continue.
So then Basalt takes them to what Ryan recognizes as a railway and like a train car, which they manage to get going. And so think more like a mining cart sort of deal. As the train starts moving, Basalt tells them that we'll take him to his friends at the other shaft in the big fissure. So when Basalt escaped, I think there was a group of 12 or so people that escaped with him, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't just him. It was like a team.
Yeah. So Team Doctor reach the other base, and they see a lot of rock creatures moving away stones. And they're introduced to a creature called Pearl, who notes that they don't look like the other aliens that she's seen before. 4 of the other aliens have been buried nearby, and they are smaller and stockier than Ryan and the Doctor. So there's also a fair bit of surface water in the tunnel, and the Doctor realises that where they are is where the large cracks are in the hollow world sky, and that they're kind of like just below the sea. And pretty soon she reckons that the sea's going to reach the lava and blow the world apart, and more water is leaking through, and so the workers are trying to plug gaps where they can with spare rocks. And also, Team Doctor hear of there being some other lifts that will kind of go right up to the surface. And so the Doctor decides that now is the time to see what's happening up on the surface of the planet.
Back with Team Yaz, her and Graham are still heading through the tunnels, and Ankh's, their apparent rescuer, is warning them that the TARDIS is being kept in Emerald's headquarters as bait. And they get to Basalt's lab, where they're met by Quartz. And after a bit of investigation, they find Basalt's note library, which are stored on this like medium of wind chime crystals. And there's also another crystal that lets them have it's basically a FaceTime session with Basalt. So they have that long distance communication. And Team Yaz gives Ash and Basalt updates as to what's been going on. And they're asked by Basalt to bring reinforcements to help shore up the cracks in the ceilings. And they reckon that, it's possible that even though this long-wave crystal communication is something that Quartz and Basalt had developed, they reckon that Emerald might be aware of it and might be eavesdropping in.
Yes, security protocols might not be too strong on it.
Yeah. So back with the Doctor and Ryan, Ash decides to stay behind and help her dad and the other workers. So the Doctor and Ryan make their way up to the surface by themselves. And they find themselves at the top of the lift shaft in a wooded kind of heathland. It reminds Ryan of a trip to Emily Bronte's house.
And this trip keeps on getting referenced quite a few times, their trip to Haworth. I kept on thinking it was going to lead somewhere, but no.
And On the surface, they discovered some abandoned buildings which were part of the mining operation there, and they encounter some nanobots which appeared to have constructed all of the equipment and also operate it, similar to like the nanobots we saw in the episode Smile with the 12th Doctor. And the two of them find their way to what seems to be a control room when suddenly they hear footsteps.
So back with Team Yaz, so they're conscious that Emerald could raid Basil's workshop at any moment, and so they bag up kind of portable essential kit. Onyx? How are we saying this word?
Onks.
Onks.
Kind of like an Ankh, like an Egyptian.
Okay.
But but Onks.
Right. Onks. Onks heads off, but before he goes, he warns Yaz that he might need to pretend to be on Emerald's side next time they meet. And so they hide some of Basil's kit in a secret compartment. And Graham and Yaz discuss how if they had the TARDIS, they could probably save everyone on the planet. But unfortunately, only Onks seems to know where it is. And then they hear someone trying to communicate with them using the crystals. Back on the surface, Team Doctor, if you remember, they're in the control room and there's these incoming footsteps. And the Doctor shouts out that she and Ryan have come in peace. And she's somewhat surprised when a door opens to reveal Ash. So this does feel like the resolution of an 80s cliffhanger, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, hi, it's just me.
Yes. Ryan explains the mining operation to Ash, who is shocked that anyone might want to steal their world's resources. And Ash has brought along a communication crystal, and so allows the Doctor to call Yaz and Graham on Crystal FaceTime. Both parties update each other on their adventures, or at least that is until Team Yaz are interrupted by the arrival of the Green Watch in Basil's laboratory.
And I have to wonder, like, why didn't Basalt give his daughter one of these communication crystals? Why was this a discovery of this old equipment in the lab, which he just happened to have corresponding equipment on him? But it's like, I'm going to carry this half of a walkie-talkie and leave the other half in my lab and hope something comes of it. But
yeah, and just make sure the only person who knows of its existence is my friend that I can't really trust.
Yeah. Oh. So, speaking of this friend, Quartz, he's trying to stall the guard, and Yaz and Graham find a secret tunnel out of the lab that leads out onto the plains. And out there they stumble across Onks, who reminds them to trust him again. And the rest of the Green Watch battalion arrive with Quartz as a captive, and the soldiers salute Onks, who appears to be their leader. Onks lets Quartz go as Emerald really just wants the Offworlders, and he also gets some of his guards to start trashing Basalt's laboratory. And Quartz insists on coming along as Yaz and Graham are brought towards Emerald. And they did manage to save some of Basalt's equipment and stuff. There was like a cubby hole like in the basement or something that they were able to drag some of the stuff to. But Emerald is insisting that none of the cracking in the walls started happening until Basalt started his experiments. Quartz argues with her about the value of Basalt's works until she calmly tells him that all of Basalt's equipment is destroyed. Then Onks reveals that they had saved some of it, and Yaz does chime in and mentions that correlation does not equal causation, which is a great little line. And Emerald becomes enraged and says Basalt will doom them all. And then suddenly from out of nowhere, the Doctor appears in the middle of the room, a foot taller than normal, and says to Emerald that it's time they talked.
So the Doctor's FaceTime hologram tells Emerald that Basil is right. The planet is in dire straits. And when Emerald protests, the Doctor reveals that she's causing the hologram to appear throughout the Diamond City. And so everybody in the city can see it. And she also tells Emerald that she's shut down the mining operations, so things won't get any worse. However, unfortunately, up on the surface, various alarms go off because deactivating the mining operations has triggered a secondary response system. And up in space, a series of satellites are now starting to bomb the already fragile planet. And Emerald is raging that the people will panic and cause chaos. And so she orders the Green Watch to prevent Quartz from going to Basil's lab. However, they don't obey her. And Onks instead orders the guards to help Quartz.
So you have a little bit of a coup revolution happening.
Yeah.
And then the Doctor reappears on Crystal FaceTime to say that the world has effectively 1 hour unless they do something, and for that she needs the TARDIS. So reluctantly, Emerald reveals to her where the TARDIS is being kept, and Yaz heads off to put all of Basalt's equipment into the TARDIS. The Doctor thanks Emerald for choosing to do the right thing. And back in the control room, the Doctor gives Ryan a headset, which she sticks on him, and it has these weird like latches that like interface with his skull, like Matrix style. Yeah. And he can he starts controlling the satellites, so he's kind of having this like VR type, almost Oculus Rift sort of experience where he's attacking the other satellites from space. And while he's being fairly successful, kind of playing it like a video game, the surviving satellites are also trying to track his satellite down, so he's having to jump from satellite to satellite. Suddenly, during all of this, the Doctor hears a voice demanding a meeting.
So whilst Ryan's having all of this fun video game stuff, he says that he's just like Poe Dameron. And we know that he's into like sci-fi stuff and everything, but I'm not sure to what extent people of his age are into Star Wars.
Yeah, and it was also the first reference I've seen to the new Star Wars trilogy in Who, and I wonder if, if he was going to name check someone, if it wouldn't be someone from like the original or prequel trilogies, just given his age. But
yeah. That did feel like almost like an editorial diktat or something, kind of like sticking a name of one of the new people. But anyway.
In the bit with Yaz getting access to the TARDIS, there's an interesting note there about why the TARDIS let Yaz and Graham inside. And the Doctor reckoned it was due to they're using these crystals for communications, and that the crystal lattice structure of the interior of the TARDIS ship was somehow amplifying or responding to this, and the Doctor's telepathic suggestion to open the doors. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little note about the mythology. Alternatively, she could have just directed them to the cubbyhole above the P, but...
Yes. So the Doctor's been hearing this voice running a meeting, and a figure appeared in front of the Doctor, and this figure is a translucent, stocky humanoid with many fingers, and claims to be a representative of a mining corporation. I'm not going to dare say this name, but it's ridiculously long. In fact, I will. Actiliosauroitis? That sounds like some sort of disease. But anyway, so this representative is called Ululu, I think.
We'll go with it, yeah.
So as the conversation continues, it emerges Ululu is only on their second week in the job and is very much in their probation period. And Ululu checks the records and sees there are no signs of life on the planet. So they rush off to speak to their supervisor. And Yaz pilots the TARDIS to pick up the Doctor, Ash and Ryan. And Ryan's finished destroying the satellites with help from Ash. And they then materialise on the train platform near Basalt. And the Doctor plans to use some deactivated nanobots to sort out the fissures. But Basalt points out that those won't work because the nanobots don't know how to reverse the fissures. And Basalt and his workers will have to seal them themselves. But that means they won't be able to actually live within the hollow world because they'll have to kind of like seal themselves in. One thing I was just going to say about Ululu and pronouns, because the book refers to Ululu as it, which I just felt interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't really get into what Ululu's preferred pronouns are.
But it does seem a bit... I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But so with this whole, they have to fix the fissures from the outside in, Ash despairs at this. So Basalt decides to FaceTime Quartz and the entire city to get his crystal formation notes, which Ankhs had salvaged from his destroyed laboratory. And as the seawater's increasingly pooling around the platform, the Doctor calls up Ululu for some reference manuals on the nanobots to try and reprogram them to help. Ululu agrees to do this in exchange for a reference from the Doctor so that they're not getting fired over this as they're in their probation.
Or if they do, they can actually carry on their career elsewhere.
Yeah. And so the Doctor has a plan to reprogram the nanobots to fill the fissures, and if that doesn't work, they'll have to evacuate everyone onto the surface of the world into the TARDIS and find a new dry home for them. And she gets the people at the platform into the TARDIS and then starts hacking the nanobots just as the water starts cascading in.
So in Diamond City, the inhabitants watch as a white light crosses the sky, which is the world breaking. As panic breaks out, they spot that a light is suddenly fading away, just as a blue box is noisily appearing in the city. And the Doctor's plan seems to have worked, so she hacks into the mining corporation's records, so that nobody seeks to mine the Hollow World again, and also so that Ululu is hired permanently. It's good that Ululu's employment situation is resolved. And the people of the city are delighted. And Emerald, relieved that their world has been saved, decides to stand down so that Quartz can take over. And she instead will study with Basalt. And as the TARDIS team prepare to leave, they make a slight detour so that Basalt can stand on the planet's surface and look up at the huge sky and see the universe, which looks how he'd always imagined it. That's lovely. I think that is a lovely note for which the book to end.
It kind of echoes an earlier scene, too, of Ryan stepping out onto the surface of that alien world for the first time, too. It just, both sequences I felt really captured the awe of that moment.
Yeah, so Ryan kind of goes, it just looks like Yorkshire.
Yes, he kind of dismisses it at the end, yeah. He's like, oh, yeah. Oh.
So, yeah.
So, what'd you think of this story? Just kind of...
Yeah, I wish I could have liked it more, I think. I think it got me off guard with the names. And I don't know. I say I wish I could have enjoyed it more. And it just... it's well written, and I just couldn't get too excited by it. But I think it's also because I was just kept on sort of struggling with the science of it. And I know, as you say, it's a bit more fantastical and everything, and I feel like such a hypocrite because I mean I love Kill the Moon, which is completely non-scientific. If this had been on in audio or on TV in some shape or form, I think I could have more easily got swept up in it.
Yeah, I kind of had a mixed reaction to it. Some things in the positive column, I guess. I loved the characterization of all four of the leads. They were all there in broad strokes, and the Doctor felt very doctory to me with her various quips. Like there was a moment where she had just kind of a one-word back and forth, Yaz, where Ululu transmits the data information, and Yaz kind of looks at her and she goes, "This is proprietary." The Doctor leans back and she goes, "Compensation." And little bits like that felt really real and true to the characters.
Yeah.
Especially given that Una McCormack wrote this so early on and probably didn't have access to, I would assume, any of the finished episodes, maybe some of the scripts. And another thing I liked about it was the underlying theme of science versus superstition, kind of that evidence versus ignorance, and felt very, like you were saying, Kryptonian Council or climate science deniers throughout. But at the same time, that was very similar thematically to ground that was covered in The Good Doctor as well. And also, both of those stories had underground tunnels in it. So part of me wondered, was there someone looking, across all the books that were coming out and just making sure that they weren't too similar to each other? Because there were some story elements, and I'm sure they were off each in their own silos, writing the stories, but it makes me wonder if there was someone there looking across the books to see if...
But I think when you have a theme of science versus faith, that's why I think if you're going to go down that route, that's why I think it makes sense if the science holds up a little bit more. Yeah. Yeah.
And that kind of ties into one of my other criticisms about it, which is it just felt too short and there was a lack of complexity. It read more like a novella or a quick read to me. It could have used another 30 or 40 pages throughout just to flesh out, the science around it or the society that they're encountering. Unlike, say, Steve Lyons with the Salations, where you could tell he spent a lot of time developing their backstory. Here, it felt kind of that glossed over.
Yeah, because I really could have done with learning a bit more about how the society works.
And maybe having the story told, from first person, say from Ash's or Emerald's perspective would have added some of that complexity and contrasting the alien world from the familiar. Or even a subplot with Ryan, Yaz, or Graham having to beam up to the mining ship for a bit, or wandering off and getting lost on their own, or something. It just, I guess part of my criticism too is that it didn't feel very real or gritty. It felt safe.
Yes.
Like you're going bowling with the bumpers up in place and you can't get a gutter ball or something. It's just the water seeping in. It just didn't feel threatening, or you didn't have that menace. Which I say that, but at the same time, I love stories that are very slice of life, that don't have a lot of plot. But in those cases, you need to make it all about the world building, like say the Also People, or expand on the alien race and the culture, like we had with the Salacians. Yeah, we didn't get nearly enough about what Emerald was trying to preserve in terms of the history and the culture, how they got to evolve in this little microcosm. None of that was on the page.
Yeah. I think one of the guest characters that stood out the most for me was Ululu. They only rock up towards the end, but I was like, I think it might also just be because Ululu feels more relatable, possibly, because obviously Ululu's concerned about job stuff and everything, and Ululu feels real in a way that the other characters...
Almost like he's coming in from a different novel.
Yes. Yeah.
In terms of like impressions too, this felt both like... It does feel, in a weird way, like a Series 11 episode. It felt deliberately methodical, and if you really like Series 11, you might enjoy this, but otherwise I think your mileage may vary, and I think it didn't help that there wasn't, a true villain of the piece.
Yeah.
That lack of villain reminded me of almost like Season 7 stories, like the Silurians or Inferno. It's more that man against nature sort of thing.
Yeah, but those have complexity that just isn't here. So it's more aimed at a family audience. Like Series 11 was. So I think it's fine that the book doesn't necessarily resonate with us because you and I are not the target audience.
Not necessarily, but
we're part of, but we're not.
Yeah. But you can take like The Good Doctor, which we read prior to this, and you can that has the added complexity of Ryan setting up the society by leaving his cell phone there, and you have like the twist of
Graham being mistaken as
just some added complexity, but that still works, I think, as a family piece, I guess. So if I were to rate this, I think I would probably give it, I'd say, a 6 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, for me, I think I'll go for a 6 as well. I was hovering between a 5 and a 6, and a 5 does seem a bit harsh, but yeah.
I was hovering between a 6 and a 7, and I thought a 7 was a bit high. So, maybe it is a 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, just it could have used an additional 30 or 40 pages just to round the page count and flesh out the gem society a little bit more. And it does make me want to try and read something a bit different for our next 13th Doctor encounter, whether that's Secret in Vault 13 or at Childhood's End or something, just a little bit outside of the norm. It's just it felt satisfying, but also just very, like, it left me wanting a lot more. So it didn't, I don't think there was any element of it that like turned me off. Like it wasn't like, oh, I've got to finish this book. It was more like I was hoping for more twists and turns, and it was just like a snack, I guess.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure I would have finished it if I'd had to, but I think that I drop books quicker than you do. So.
The only one I've ever dropped was the Crystal Bucephalus, and I even went back and finished it for the podcast. So
yeah, fair enough.
I did appreciate all the occasional references to Grace throughout, especially if it's set soon after her death.
Yeah,
and like I said, the characterization of the TARDIS team was great. But overall, it just wasn't for me, and it didn't hit the same notes of enjoyment that her earlier work that we read, Way Through the Woods, did for me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and Una McCormack's a good writer, so I think maybe she was slightly hemmed in by this needs to feel like a season 11 story. And also season 11 isn't my favourite season, so yeah.
Well, in that sense, it does slot right in almost like a Missing Adventure. It does capture the tone of that season, for better and for worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
that's that.
Shall we move on to listener feedback?
Yes, let's.
All right, so Chris, I hear you may have a letter.
Yes, yeah. So we've got some feedback from Elliot, a younger reader. So I think Elliot's 12, and he's read Molten Heart. It's his only. I think it's his only. Maybe I think the only other Doctor Who fiction he's read has been Dave Rudden. Source material. So he's been watching the 13th Doctor's Adventures on telly, and I don't know whether Elliot would describe himself as a Doctor Who fan, but he's also been catching up during lockdown on the Tennant era. And seems to have been very much enjoying that. And he thought it was a very good book that kept him interested for a rather long time. He found it very interesting, and he thought there were some kind of like scary moments. For example, like Quartz, in his words, playing for both sides, and describes kind of Quartz's dilemma about handing them over to the half-evil, half-friendly ruler, Emerald. And apparently, according to his mother, the Amazon dashboard revealed that it took him 3 and a bit hours to read it.
Less time than it took me.
So, yeah, I thought, also, wow, that's interesting and creepy and interesting. You could find that out. But I am not a parent, so I don't look at Amazon dashboards. So, and Elliot thought it was quite cleverly made, so that once you've read a page, there's like a small tiny cliffhanger that makes you want to read on, and that helped him kind of read through quite quickly. He would recommend it for people who like science fiction and who like Doctor Who. But if you don't like science fiction, he suggested to steer clear. But also, if you didn't like science fiction, you probably haven't got to this far in the podcast. Yes, but he did kind of think you didn't need to have watched Doctor Who before to enjoy the book, but it might have helped a little bit if you knew what the TARDIS was. So,
very cool.
So, and he gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. So he went higher than we did. But also, I'll go back to my other point. I think he's the target market more than we. So,
it's also very successful in that regard.
Yeah, and he says it's a really, really good book. So there's 2 reallys. So
there we go.
Yes.
So thanks, Elliot, for your feedback.
Yes.
And listeners, you can send in your reviews or comments to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll read them out on the air. We also have gotten a review.
Ooh.
Our first in just over a year.
Yay!
Tiki Who writes, Matt and Chris share a real love for Doctor Who in a written format, and the depth they bring to the podcast discussion is brilliant. Along with the book discussion, each episode includes some fascinating segments bringing their personal experiences surrounding Doctor Who and fandom, from attending conventions to collecting all sorts of merchandise to the actual televised show itself. Definitely check it out.
Cool.
Well, thank you very much. That was a lovely review. Please, everyone, do go and write one along those same lines and submit if you get a chance. It really does help promote the show and the algorithm around it. So thank you very much.
On the UK version of what used to be iTunes, we've had some more 5-star reviews but no words. That's okay. If you just all you feel you can just do is 5 stars, that's fine. That's good. That helps. And over on Facebook, we heard from TJ Rankin, who said that Molten Heart was the only 13th Doctor book that they own. So they'll be reading along with you 2 gentlemen for that as well. And they hope that they could actually finish this one before the podcast comes out. So, yeah.
Well, it's on the shorter side, so maybe you did.
Yes.
On Twitter, we've gotten lots of comments on the Father Time podcast from last month.
Cool.
Ripper Rich says he loves this book, and it still has it on his bookshelf. One of the better stories from the range. John Porter says, love Father Time. He tried to get a copy of the cover art as his daughter was only about 6 months old when it came out, and he says it's time Miranda came back. Well, she does come back in Sometime Never, but yes. Michael Mills calls Father Time an all-time classic, a high point of the EDAs, and for his money, one of the best Doctor Who stories in any medium. He says, it's a wonderful story about growing up as much as it is a great big space opera, an 80s take on The Tempest, which I hadn't thought of.
Of course, because Miranda. Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
We didn't catch that one.
Yeah.
A couple other comments about Father Time. James Agnes writes that he read this one recently on his 8th Doctor Adventures read-through. He says it was his absolute favorite of the 8th Doctor Stranded on Earth arc. Ben Rigby says it's a classic that stands the test of time. Lance Parkin was a superb writer of the EDAs, and he calls it brilliantly evocative of the era, the challenges of adolescence, and how the Doctor would actually parent a teenager about whom there is more than meets the eye. Well, Ryan Hinley says he hasn't read this one, but he's not a huge Lance Parkin fan.
Oh.
And then Jason writes, I'm finally caught up to your show, and he'll be listening to Father Time when it comes out. It's been very enjoyable listening to all of them so far, and the podcast on Ground Zero has inspired him to dig back into the comics from old Doctor Who magazines that he hasn't read yet. And finally, we've heard from Keith Say. He said he loves the Father Time podcast, and it brought back memories of a time when he was seriously into the Eighth Doctor novels, and he really adored that story arc. Although Keith says he was never sure why the Doctor never used the technology later in the novel to escape Earth. I think it's because he really wanted to find out who Fitz was and solve that mystery first.
Yeah.
And stick around. Keith then says Molten Heart is a great book, and you can hear his thoughts about it on the Trap One podcast. So thanks, Keith, for your comments, and everyone on Twitter for chiming in this month.
Right. So I think this is the point where you let us know what we're going to be reading next month.
Indeed it is. For April, in honor of it being our 50th numbered show of this version of the podcast,
Okay.
I wanted to pick something a little memorable with the potential to stand out. And in looking at which Doctors were still available this cycle, the Fifth Doctor, surprisingly, leapt out at me.
He doesn't have a habit of doing that for you, does he?
One of my least favorite Doctors, but Chris, I suspect he ranks somewhat higher with you.
Yeah.
But I figured, hey, I can work with this. So for April, we're going to be reading The Tides of Time.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Which is a Panini graphic novel that collects all, or most all, of the Fifth Doctor's stories in a single volume.
Oh, wow.
And written by Steve Parkhouse.
Yes.
With art from Dave Gibbons, Mick Austin, and Steve Dillon. And originally published in May of 2005, it was the third in the Panini graphic novel range, and it's still in print today, some 16 years later.
Wow. Yes. Because I've never read any of that. I've read some Fourth Doctor DWM stuff. I've read some, obviously I've read the 6th and the 7th. But yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, I am excited.
Cool.
Oh.
So for April, The Tides of Time.
Marvellous. Cool.
Until next month, this has been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. Happy reading and stay safe.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song Doctor Who Theme Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. Help other listeners to find us by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
So yeah, until next month and The Tides of Time, this has been Matt in Minnesota.
The Tides of Time?
We recorded that already, remember?
Oh yeah, so we did. I've forgotten about that. It's been a day.
We've recorded the Tides of Time bit,
we did.
Gosh, months ago
I'd
now.
forgotten about that entirely. Yes, yeah. Cool. Right.
Just to get a genuine reaction from
yes,
you.
That's true. That's true.
And because it takes a while to get the physical copy, and we, with lockdown and stuff, we weren't sure about shipping. But
I'm glad that you're in control.
Oh, that was great.
Well, there's your outtakes.
Yeah, there's the end bit.